that raised some eyebrows with people is when I dropped the information about Quincy Jones. All right, let's sex rings in Hollywood. And the people that he brought in, if y'all tell me if I'm lying, Tevin Campbell, his little sweet ass up and down Hollywood Blvd.
How does a boy with a voice like that had the records that he had that could have easily transformed into one of the greatest male vocals of all time, end up prostituting himself for drugs?
For years, people have wondered how someone as talented as Tevin Campbell could have fallen off his high career and not be able to go back as high as before. And it seems like his involvement with Quincy Jones, the same man who made him a star, was his actual downfall.
Sex rings in Hollywood. And the people that he brought in, if y'all tell me if I'm lying.
It was all first alleged by Professor Griff, a renowned Hollywood producer, that Quincy was taking in young talent and turning them into sex workers, with Tevin being among the young talents in question. Another person who linked Quincy and Tevin together was Jaguar Wright, who alleged that Tevin was forced to sell himself for drugs at the Hollywood Blvd and that he was pressured into it by, well, Quincy Jones. In true Jaguar Wright fashion, she felt the need to out celebrities, and so she decided to offer up some information about Tevin Campbell's past escapades, claiming that the 90s musician ended up selling himself for drugs on Hollywood Blvd. Now, let's not forget the type of person Jaguar is, and this isn't the first time that she caught herself publicly outing business that wasn't hers and can't be confirmed. But for all the rumors she talked about, no other artist has acknowledged her, except for Campbell, as he took to Twitter to push back against her claim. He wrote on Twitter, "According to @Jaguar Wright, I was a sex worker on Hollywood Blvd. It's called online defamation. Do not test. T.E.V.I.N. My lawyer is on deck. I would take that YouTube vid down if I were you." Jaguar herself took to a live and claimed she had seen the tweet of Tevin claiming he was going to sue her, and she didn't really care because for her it was the truth. Now, from what she had to say, there was a hint of truth when she claimed that Tevin should have never fallen off his music graces due to the fact that he is a talented musician and singer. If you've ever listened to the radio or had been to any kind of school dance after the 90s, then you've heard about Tevin Campbell, or his voice at least. Tevin developed a passion for singing at a young age and honed his vocals in gospel choirs in his home state of Texas, and in the late 80s, a friend of his family introduced him to jazz flutist Bobby Humphrey, who then talked him up to the bigwigs at Warner Brothers. This introduction led to a meeting with industry icon Benny Medina, and Tevin's career was set making a name for himself early on by linking up with a couple of legends, with his first single being Tomorrow, A Better You and Me from Quincy Jones's Back on the Block Ensemble LP. This must have been the first time the young artist ever met Quincy, and right out of the gate, that song became massive. The song would eventually become a #1 hit on the Billboard R&B charts, around the same time Campbell was just turning 14. He met Quincy when he was only 14, and his career was already booming, his name being mentioned by big artists and his vocals praised by everyone. Quincy's album Back on the Block would go on to win the Grammy for Album of the Year, partially driven by the single that would, for a time, be a hallmark in the graduation auditoriums of schools, teen talent shows, and youth choirs in churches across America. Obviously, with such a good start, Campbell's follow-up collaboration would be with none other than Prince, when he was just 15, for the top 15 Billboard Hot 100 Round and Round, and by the time the young man was 18, there were only 3 voices allowed to vamp out in both ad-lib and in keys higher than everyone else on 1994's Black Men United's sole charity single, You Will Know, written by D'Angelo, and they were Stokely Williams, Brian McKnight, and an 18-year-old Tevin Campbell. The song included everyone from Usher and Gerald Levert to El DeBarge and Lenny Kravitz, and with a 4.5 octave range, young Campbell was often referred to as the male Whitney Houston of his day. At just age 20, Campbell would be called to slay Houston style on the 1996 Olympic album for The Impossible Dream. And of the 5 Grammy nominations he'd received before his 20th birthday, Campbell lost to the likes of Luther Vandross, Al Jarreau, Ray Charles, Babyface, and Peak Boys 2 Men, people with that level of artistic albums. In addition to selling over 3 million albums during this period, Campbell also acted in sitcoms and cop shows alongside talents such as Will Smith and Brandy. It wasn't until the time Campbell was arrested in 1999 at the age of 22 for soliciting oral sex from an undercover cop, and followed it with a disastrous forced outing interview with Jamie Foster Brown in Sister to Sister magazine in 2003, that his career as an A-lister came to a close. he was gay, which wasn't good for hip-hop back then, made him transition from golden boy to just another 90s R&B singer. Whenever he was asked about his sexuality, he would reply with a curious mix of defensiveness, denials, obfuscation, and old-school industry lines about it being nobody's business. And I like to leave a bit to the imagination. And it wasn't until recently that he actually came out as gay. In a new interview on the People Everyday podcast, several years after a career in the public eye with huge chart hits, lauded Broadway performances, and a much-beloved song in a 90s Disney classic, R&B star Tevin Campbell let his fans in on a part of his personal life that he had kept evading before. During the podcast, Campbell confirmed that he identifies as a gay man and took a look back on what led him to officially open up to his fans, saying, "What makes me happiest right now is how far I've come in life," he said on the podcast. "You know, there are a lot of child stars that don't make it, but a lot of us do. And the fact that I've embraced me." Campbell revealed that throughout his early years in the industry, he never really concealed his identity from those around him, but he still understood that during that time, gay wasn't a thing. He claimed that it wasn't until 2005, when he appeared as Seaweed J. Stubbs in the Broadway musical Hairspray, that he felt he'd truly found himself saying, "Being around people who were like me, LGBTQ plus people that were living normal lives and had partners. I had never seen that," he said. "That was a great time in my life." Campbell also praised stars such as Lil Nas X and Frank Ocean, who have found success in R&B and hip-hop, while also being openly queer, claiming it wasn't that way in the 90s, and he is glad to see it now. "It wasn't like that in the 90s, but I'm glad I get to see it. I'm glad that's changing," he said. "There are a lot of kids, especially young black boys, that need to see representation. They're not being taught to love themselves because of who they are." Fans had long speculated about Campbell's sexuality, but that speculation came to a head when Campbell tweeted and later deleted the phrase, "Tevin is," followed by a rainbow flag emoji. Quincy Jones himself once made a crazy interview where he went on from calling Michael Jackson greedy to telling the world that Richard Pryor was bisexual, all the while singing praises on Tevin Campbell. This sparked up previous rumors that have been circling on and off for years that Quincy molested Tevin when he was still a teenager. Tevin himself took to social media claiming that it was all fabricated news. "Now I'm trending folks will really say some disgusting things. Tevin was molested by Quincy," Tevin wrote along with laughing emojis. "GTFOH with the devil," he concluded. Several times Campbell seemed to surface to an always eager audience, like when he did his multiple runs in the international touring companies of Broadway's Hairspray over 6 years, a briefly released, never-before-heard digital album in 2008 that was pulled and ethered, and a smattering of tribute shows, late-night TV guest appearances, one-off singles, and guest features on others' projects kept him episodically busy. Despite these comeback moments and the fans' responsiveness to them, nothing seemed to stick, as if the world that had loved his voice had quietly gone down with him. A fan said, "Why am I just finding out that Tevin Campbell was once busted for alleged prostitution?" Another said, "In 1999, Tevin Campbell pleaded no contest to soliciting prostitution from an undercover officer, a male officer at that." What do you guys think happened to Tevin Campbell's massive career, and how did he end up selling himself? Do you think it was linked to Quincy Jones? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments section. Anyways, let's not forget that this video is based on theories and my opinions and should not be considered facts. That's it for this video. Bye.